Welcome to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Here's your hosts, Matt Cook and Bobby Brown. Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. This is episode number 45. I'm your host, Matt Cook. We've got our co-host here, Mr. Bobby Brown, and you are coming off of your first week back on the job.
Yes.
First tournament. It's not a bad place to start in Hawaii.
No, it's a great place.
Bobby, my goodness.
Yeah, it's a great. Mahalo.
Did you learn that this trip?
About 20 years ago.
There you go.
I'm not sure what it means, but I think it means thank you. I know what aloha means. That's about it. All right. So, I'm running on fumes, bro.
Well, listen, we've got a great show for everybody tonight. We've got the Sony Open, so we're going to recap that. The Sony Open, man. We're gonna dive into it. It's gonna be fun. The American Express, which I found out today is just the American Express. There's no Open, there's no nothing. It's just the American Express. So we're going to give a full analysis there. We're going to talk about the Netflix documentary that went nuts last week. And right after, of course, the podcast came out. Sure enough, that Netflix documentary trailer is released. The players who are going to be in it are announced. So we're going to go through all of those details. And then, as always, we're going to finish with the latest LIV Golf news. And boy, we're getting treated very well early this year because there's a lot of stuff. Of stuff on LIV Golf, a lot of speculation, and I can't wait to dive into it because I will have a few more sips of this, and we're going to get a little saucy tonight, Bobby. Little saucy. I'm running on fumes too, believe it or not.
Okay.
I was up till 3 a.m., had to be up at 8 a.m. for, no, I wish. No, it was literally just having to get more and more work done, and it's a crazy time of year. Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
we
power through
will.
it. Yeah,
so, Bobby,
sure.
Why don't we recap with you?
Sure.
How was your week being back on the job?
Well, it was good. It was great to be. I told you I had a renewed energy this year, and man, it was just great to be back out there. You know, there's when you work for a player that doesn't practice much in the off season in Boise. There's not, and I express my feelings on this. There's not a lot of expectations. Really, the only expectations were to get 4 rounds under your belt and kind of get ready for, and I don't know if I would say get 4 rounds under your belt there and then get another 4 under our belt here, because he seems to play good, once he rolls into Pebble and Scottsdale. Not historically, hasn't done great at Riviera, but you never know what could happen there in 3 or 4 weeks. But it was a moral victory. We were first off on Thursday morning, and I told you early in the podcast last week, the course was getting firm and fast. I also told you last week on the podcast that of all the tournaments I've done for so many years, 30 a year, there's every week I can go back and I'm like, oh, my guys had a chance to win 2 or 3 times, or they've won, and I've had some good luck. But remember, I was telling you this tournament, the past tournament in Sony, I had a couple top 10s, which were backdoor top 10s, I think, with Kyle Stanley, and I was never really in the mix. But somebody tried to trick me on Thursday morning when they came out, Troy Narrett and birdie 10 and 11 right off the bat. And I want to say I started leaderboard watching after about an hour because I know we got off to a great start, and I know it was super firm and it was going to be hard. And I wanted to get a gauge on scores because sometimes guys can shoot 7 or 8 under out there, but it was quite apparent early on Thursday that nobody was going to really mess this course up. So I think we got around the front side at 3 under, leading. Did I tell you we were leading the tournament, Matt? And then we made another.
You were leaderboard watching, so
yes,
and it was early. You were the first group off.
Shh, don't you fucking rain on my parade, you son of a bitch.
But it had to be exciting.
It was, and then we got to 4 under, and I definitely knew we were leading. I think us, Stuart Sink, and somebody else was jockeying at 3 or 4, and he looked like shit on Tuesday for 9 holes, and then Wednesday. the pro-am for 9 holes. He had mentioned something to me on Tuesday about taking the club inside, and that usually just goes through one ear and out the other because I don't know
Sure.
what the fuck he's talking about half the time. But I just said to him sometime on Tuesday, I go, you don't strike me as a technical player, so why don't you just you know play golf? And he made some kind of adjustment and looked great on Wednesday in the pro-am. Got off to that rocket start, so we teed off on the back, we're leading and we get to 8 and we hit it in the middle of the fairway on 8. This is when all hell broke loose. Oh, we had made a bogey somewhere. We had made a bogey a couple holes before that, which is no big deal because everybody was making 1 or 2 bogeys out there, right? So we're
Yeah, but
3 under,
didn't
probably
you
one.
didn't you guys come right back with a birdie after the bogey though?
Yes, you
Yeah.
know your shit. Yeah, you know your shit. So we came right back, and then we got to 8, and it was kind of a pin that we've seen before, a back left pin, middle of the fairway, and he hit some good iron shots, and he was knifing an 8 iron for some reason on Thursday. He hit a lot of shots close with 8 irons, like 3 of those birdies were 8 irons. So we had another 8 iron. He kind of got it up and spinny a little into the wind, but no big deal. It came down on the collar right below, straight uphill about 30 feet, and then he ran that by 8 feet, and then he ran that by 4 feet, and then he ran that by 3 feet. So what does that mean in mathematics world?
Was that a 4 or 5 putt? I couldn't keep
That was a
track.
4 putt. That was fucked up is what it was. It was a 4 putt, and I reminded him somewhere later, I'll tell you the story, that it was a 4 putt, but he chose to correct me and said the first one was on the fringe. I always call him the caller, that it was a 3 putt. It was a fucking 4 putt. And all of a sudden you are not in a very good mood. And I'm like, did that just happen? And I wasn't so mad about, I was mad about the 4 putt. The only reason I was mad was because the one coming back, I felt like he rush stacked the little 3.5 or 4 footer, and he tried to jam it home, and it hula hooped on him. And I got this flashback to Pebble Beach last year when we were trying to win on 17, when he made a double bogey there out of the bunker, and he tried to jam a 4 footer. I don't know. Fuck. It's easy for me to say from watching from the back of the green and fucking shock, right? So I didn't say shit, but I was bent. I knew he was bent, and we got to 8. We got to 9, which is the easiest par 5 on the tour, by the way. As you know, you could hit it depending on what the wind is. You can hit 2 iron in, you can hit 8 iron in sometimes, depending on the wind. So he piped one down the middle, and we are kind of in between numbers. And he's like, "What do you want?" We pulled the 3 iron out of the bag, and he's like, "Ah, man, it's probably 2 iron." I'm like, oh man, it's a cut 2 iron. If you can keep it up in the air, it wasn't a number for a 2 iron, but we are trying to make it fit. And he hit this beautiful high cut 2 iron right at it. Only at Wildlight can you hit a 2 iron up in the air and it just bites right there, into the green, because of there was a kind of a soft spot. The front of those greens are kind of soft. I know I'm getting a little confusing here.
No,
So
you're
I'm
good.
like, oh fuck, that was a good shot, right? So I hand him the putter and I go, I'm so fucking mad at you right now. He goes, oh, only him would say, you're mad at me for 4 putting? I go, I'm not really mad at you. I'm not happy about that, but I'm not mad at you for 4 putting. But I'm mad at you because you fucking got my expectations so high when you got to 4 under. I came here with no expectations that we played 4 rounds in a row. It was a moral victory. You'd get some reps in, you'd feel a little bit of pressure. And he goes, well, I hit the middle of the putter face on all 4. And I'm like, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking face right now. And I didn't want to say he goes, the last putt I hit was a pretty good one. And I'm thinking to myself, no, the last putt you hit was the one that fucking pissed me off when you tried to jam it home and you hit it a little quick. So anyways, he finishes at 2 under, right? And we don't get off to the greatest start on Friday. And I was sitting
Hang
having
on. Step back. He hits that
what?
beautiful cut 2 iron.
He makes birdie. He 2 putts for
Yeah,
birdie.
I was about to say
Yeah.
that got you guys back to 2 under, right?
Yeah, that got us
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
2 under.
Okay.
So it's no big deal. And you knew that I knew at that point that he thought nobody would crease 5. I thought somebody would shoot 6. So I think somebody shot 6, or a couple guys were at 6, maybe 2 or 3 guys were at 6, but we were there. We were close, but it was still a little bit disappointing. So on Friday, we teed off at the front side, didn't really get much going. We were 2 under for a long time. We were back to 1 under. We got to 3 under, and I was sitting with there's some data thing that comes out that most of these caddies are into, and it's a data company that gives you the percentages on what the cut's going to be. You know what I
Mm,
mean? They take in wind
yeah.
conditions and players and all that. I don't know. I don't even pay attention to it because I don't. I've been caddying too long. That doesn't. I don't care if you're telling me the cut's going to be 65% at this number or 22% at this number. But I was sitting with Don Donatello, who is former big break runner up, Mr. Mr. Importante. And I'm like, what do you think this cut's going to be? He goes, what do you think this cut's going to be? I go, it's going to stay at 2 for sure because the greens are firm. He goes, no, do you ever look at the data thing? And he shows it, he holds the phone right in my face. He goes, 66.5%, it's going to be 3 under. I'm going to go with that. And I'm like, well, Mr. Big Break runner up, I say that it's going to be 2 under because it's firm as shit out there. And the only thing that scares me is you finish on 9 and 18, 2 pretty easy par fives, 9 much more easier. But let me fast forward. We get to the backside. We're we're at 3 under, right? And we're on 15, which is this little hole. You got to think a 4 iron out there, and you usually always hit 8 iron into it. So we were in between 8 and 9 iron, and it was blowing pretty good into our face and a little bit off the left. And he's like, man, I don't feel like a nine's going to get up in the air. What do you think about cut 8? And I'm like, oh, I love it. And it's a 15 on 4 right pin with a deep bunker to the right, and that, naturally you're like, the best look is a little left of the hole. That's just trying to plant a seed, like fucking don't short side yourself. We're trying to make this cut, right? So he hits it in the right bunker, and it's kind of dead. And he hits a pretty good bunker shot out there, actually, to 8 or 10 feet, and he did not make it. And
Mm.
so we fell back to 1 under, and then he was bitching and moaning about his putting on left to righters because he kind of pops out of them kind of quick, and they all miss. They don't have a chance right off the bat. So
That sounds
we
like
get
me.
to yeah, sounds like you, man. So we get to 16, and we drove one down the middle on 16, and we had a wedge into this way back left pin. He had a beautiful wedge in there too, about I'm going to say 10 or 12 feet below the hole, left to right. And he goes, we're walking up the green. He goes, I'm so mad right now. I put a line on my ball. So I'm
Wow.
like, okay, yeah, I put a line on my ball. He never does that, Mr. Field, right? So we get up to the green. I knew he was going to call me in, right? And he goes like that. He just looks at me and goes like that. And I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. Of course you call me in, fucking now, you cock. So, and it's a putt I had seen. It's a putt I had seen before that I know wiggles right a little bit right at the end, and we read it perfect. Should I tell you that 2 holes before that, I went to CVS because I'm an electrolyte hydration expert, right? And they had these new organic electrolyte things. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get 3 boxes of these, right? So I got 3 boxes of them, and I went to this blueberry pomegranate flavor. Unbeknownst to me, it had caffeine in it, right? So right when I'm reading that putt, I'm like, I felt like I did a big old fucking gagger right now. I am all fucking jacked up. I cannot fucking hold still. I'm not kidding you.
Oh
So
god.
so he makes the putt on 16, and we get to 17. It's an 8 iron on a back hole left location. And now I'm going to tell you my whole point of this story is now it becomes a fucking rush because you're trying to make the cut, right? And it almost feels, Matt, don't laugh at me, but it feels like you're trying to win a golf tournament because the focus and everything goes up, even if your caddy's amped out of his mind from a fucking caffeine hydration
You
drink.
were on one.
Yes. Oh man, I was on a heater. And so it's this beautiful 8 iron right at it, about 15 feet behind the hole, calls me in again with the line, and it's an obvious left to right putt. And he just wants me to, he goes, look at this line. So I kind of, it's crazy, but I don't really know how to plumb bob in all my years. And I've
I don't think it
never,
works.
yeah, I don't know how to plumb bob, but he's a big plumb bob guy, and he's an expert. But he goes, just check my line. So I used to do it with Dustin all the time because he putted with the line, and I will just like plumb bob with a stick and
Yeah.
see exactly where the line was. And he goes, does that look like it's too much? I want to be between that, 3 quarters of the cup out there. And I'm like, oh my god, that's a perfect read. I've seen this putt before. So I go, no, your line's spot on. And fuck, he hit it a little too hard. It never broke. And at this point, I'm watching the board, and 2 under. We played with that kid who played on the President's Cup team. He had a horrible 2 days. Christian was Wiedenhout, right? And
Yeah.
his caddy said to me early in the day, "What do you think about this cut?" And I go, "Well, it hasn't moved off the T58. This was like on 6 or 7." I go, "I think it's going to stay at 2." He goes, he goes, "Yeah, like two's going to get it done for sure." So, but you still think you need to make a birdie because you're the first group out. And like I said, all those guys scare me finishing on 9 or 18. So we got to 18, and we drove it just through the fairway on the right. You know that bunker? You could see that bunker out there, that 280 or 290 bunker. It was just left on the bunker, but it was in the rough, and it was on a big downslope. And I'm like, I thought it stopped in the first cut, and we got out there, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is not good. He's like this, a lot of weight forward. And I go, what are you thinking here? And he goes, I think I can get a 4 iron on it. He goes, but I can get a 5 iron on it for sure. It's probably only going to go, wait, it's probably only going to fly about a buck and a quarter, a buck 20 or a buck 30. And he goes, but this thing can chase, we had 230 front. It could probably chase up close to the front. So he hit this beautiful running 5-iron, and it was a kind of a front left pin, and it ended up about 8 yards short. But it was a funky chip. You know, you got to go over the collar. So we spent a lot of time together. Like, I just wanted to land it outside right, because I figured if he put some spin on it, you know, it would wiggle left. And worst case scenario, if in a good spot, he had 4 to 8 feet for birdie to ice making the cut. And he's looking over the collar, and I'm trying to sell him on this shot. I almost felt like we overdid it a little bit too much, to be quite honest. In hindsight, he probably thought we were fine, but he goes, fuck it, I'm going right at it, you know, and I'm going to try and just land it just over the collar. And he caught a lot of ball and had about excuse me, I'm going to say 8 to 10 feet on that. Guess what? Another fucking left to righter, you
Oh
know.
no.
And he calls me and he goes, what do you see? I go, I'm about 2 balls outside left. He goes, check my line. It's the same putt Ogletree. Remember, I told you I had Ogletree there last year when Detroit got COVID. It's that same putt Ogletree had, only a smaller version. Um, and Ogletree had to make eagle, and I knew how slow it was up the hill. And I even said the last thing, I go, yeah, I got it 2 balls, and I go, it's sneaky slow going up the hill. And he felt like he probably had to make it, and fucking, of course, he left it dead short into the jaws. And I'm like, didn't I tell you? So now I spent the rest of the day. We went back to the locker room, and at that point, I think when we finished, we were T57. I walked in the locker room, we were T55, and I was telling him in the locker room, I go, "Fuck, we're one or two better." But the whole thing is, like I told you, it scares me finishing on 9 and 18. What else scares me is that there's not a lot of daylight there. So 4 or 5 usually 3 or 4 groups never finish, right? So they're going to come out the next morning and get fresh greens, and you don't really get a lot of wind in the morning. Make a long story short, I spent the next fucking 2.5 hours putting the heebie-jeebie whammy slammy on people, seeing if I could stop them.
It
And it got
fucking
a
worked.
it did work. And I think we got in there T60 or T61 or something like that. And after 2 days, guess who was leading? I pulled up the stats. Guess who was leading in the field in shots gained approach? Mr. T61 himself, Troy
No
Merritt.
way.
After 2 days, his shots gained putting was 110th. So that should tell you something. So we made the cut. So we're happy about that. A little disappointed, but happy to play in the weekend. I'm still fucking amped out from the fucking cocaine drink that I drank on fucking 14. I threw them all away, by the way. But it was a great story to tell my roommate Micah when I got back. He's like, "Bob, you're moving around kind of fast." And I'm like, "Drink the fucking Tito's and let me come down off of this fucking crystal meth buzz, okay? Just slow down, big guy." And so we advanced to the weekend, and I think we shot 1 under. We shot 1 under on Saturday, and it was apparent that we weren't really. It was apparent that the putting was what has been an issue and was going to be the issue, you know, through the whole weekend as it was. And I swear to God, every hole, and he hit it good. He ended up shots gained approach after the whole tournament, 3rd or 4th. And when you do that, if you have half a pulse putting or a decent putting week, you're going to finish in the top 20 or the top 25. But I couldn't stop thinking to myself, like, this was another tournament where we finished 65th or something, where we shouldn't have finished any worse than 30th. But after he's missing all these putts and he's telling me I can't get him online, I can't get him started online, I started thinking to myself, well, now it's time to get rid of. And no disrespect to Joe Tulin or Odyssey putters, because they're the #1 putters on tour, and they have been for quite a while. But you know, after 4 or 5 holes left, I told him. He goes, "What do you think?" And I go, "Well, I had a theory, but what I would like to see, but I'm not going to tell you after the round." And then he missed another 10 further for birdie or something left to right, and I finally couldn't say it. And I go, "It's time to get rid of that fucking putter and go back to the putter that we benched because we didn't make the tour championship, the one that we made $2 million with, the one that you tried to win 4 golf tournaments with, and then let's roll with that." And he didn't give me any answer, you know, whatsoever on that. But you know, I planted the seed, and it's funny. We took red eyes out of there on Sunday night, right? And the bad part of my weekend was my San Diego Chargers gave away that 27-0 lead. And 3 things I'm going to take out of that. Okay. Here's what I think. The Bosa guy, I hope he got his ass kicked in the locker room for throwing his helmet on the ground twice and getting that personal foul or whatever it was. So I hope Bosa got his ass kicked in the locker room. I hope they released him that night, which they didn't. And I hope that they fired their defensive coordinator. Turns out I read this morning they actually fired their offensive coordinator, which was surprising to me with the great offense they had. But it was stinky. And Micah was fucking hammered all during the second half. And I never root against his Baylor Bears or his Dallas Cowboys. And he was rooting against my team. And I would like to show a picture. How many people do you think watch this thing live? Do you think we get anybody that watches this thing live, or do you think they just listen to it? So I got to
Well,
treat.
it's not live.
Okay,
It's
so I'm going
recorded.
to. Okay, well, I mean, actually view it or listen
On
to it.
YouTube? Probably
Yeah, like
about, I mean, we normally get
three
right
or
around
four.
like 2,500 views.
Okay, okay, okay. So for all of you guys that want to know what it's like staying with Micah on a weekend when he's on the Tito's and his players in contention, let's see if you guys can you see? It looks a little something like that.
Oh, full seated position.
He's snoring right there. He is
Oh,
out cold, and it's about 6:56 p.m. So
oh, we're
that's
gonna have to get Micah back on here so that he
you.
can defend
You
himself.
no, he might kick my ass because we got into it before the red eye. Our red eyes were 11:30 on Sunday, and I like getting to the airport early. Like I like leaving the hotel at
I'm
9
the
and
same
getting.
way. I get
And I'm
anxiety just to
yeah,
get through
fuck
security
you.
and get to the gate. As soon as I'm to
Yeah,
the gate, I'm golden. Like no
yeah,
anxiety,
yeah, yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
But I just
yeah,
want to make sure
yeah.
I'm there. I don't love the
Well,
build up to getting to
no,
the airport and then making sure you have enough time and security and all that bullshit.
yeah,
Even though TSA
yeah.
pre and all that, but
So he finished his career and played great. SH Kim, right? They
yeah.
finished 12th again. We've been raving about this guy. They actually were in contention to win, and he's just he's just going through the process of learning how to be in contention on the PGA Tour. But bad news for me is we get back Sunday with those split tee times. He's on the juice again at 2 o'clock, and he goes, "What time do you want to leave for the airport?" And I'm like, 9 o'clock. He goes, "Well, it's so fucking early, man." And I'm like, "Well, everything you just said." So he's getting more hammered and more hammered, and it's about 8:40, and I'm like walking around the room pretending like I'm ready, all packed up, wondering if my bag's over or under 50 pounds. I'm picking it up like 40 times because caddies can nail the weight within a pound when you pack. We're experts on that. So it's about 8:40. He goes, I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I'm gonna just walk down to the store and get a little poke bowl or something like that. So he brings a poke bowl back. He's back in like 10 minutes, and he's playing spades on his phone, and he's not eating. And I'm like, dude, I'm fucking leaving. I'm getting an Uber. He's like, why are you gonna be so mean? And it was just drama. So, anyways, I got out of the fucking.
Oh, you
I,
you
I got
after
out of
that
the.
caffeine drink from what was it, a day
Well,
or two before?
Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, you had a
Saturday.
hangover for a day and a half.
Oh, I'm a moody. He called me a moody motherfucker. I'm like, yeah, I know, bro. I know. It's easy for you to say when you're tied for six swinging into the weekend. I'm tied for fucking 60th. And then he tried to give me the old remember my friend Lance Bennett, who was on that works for
Mm-hmm.
Davis Riley. Remember I was telling you he likes to come back to the room and give you the play-by-play on his great day when you shot like one over. And finally he started giving me the play-by-play, and I got right in his face. I go, listen, Lance, I don't want to fucking hear it. And that just started us fighting for the next 2 days. So here's the good news. I'm by myself in La Quinta. I'm at my mom and my brother's house, which is brand spanking new, and it's 5 minutes from the golf course. And I told Troy that I was going to suspend Micah from staying with me for 30 days. So Micah, you're out for
Wow.
30 days. Yeah,
30
I'm giving him
days. Is he
30
allowed to
days.
come
Yeah.
on to the podcast during that time?
Nope, not unless they win.
Oh
He is also
no.
suspended from the podcast unless they win and or they get disqualified. We need to
Micah,
hear a good
reach
story.
out to me because Bobby's not going to schedule you on the podcast, but I might bring you on as a surprise next week.
Micah, I got another surprise for you. You think we're staying together at Pebble Beach? Oh no, sir.
Oh no. And
Yeah.
that's Bobby's stomping
You
grounds.
better book that Ramada in for $666.
Oh
Cockroach
my gosh. So I
Factory.
do have a question for you.
Sure.
And it just popped up because you brought up Pebble Beach.
Okay.
Did you ever run into during your time of caddying at Pebble Beach to
hmm
where I had somebody ask me about this the other day? They're like, "Hey Matt, have you ever run into where the really wealthy guys are the ones that will sit there and like fish balls out of the water and spend like 15 minutes
Yeah.
trying to do that?" Like, did you run into that at Pebble? Because I guarantee you
Well,
there's a lot of wealthy individuals
well,
playing
there's a
Pebble Beach.
there's a ton. That's nothing but wealthy individuals playing Pebble Beach.
True.
But Matt, but Matt, there's nowhere to fish balls out of the water at Pebble Beach unless you want to go off a
Oh, there's a
100-foot
cliff.
cliff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
a hundred
true.
foot cliff. But you will see that in Florida at big courses that have wealthy people, Bears Club and stuff like that, that have wealthy people that are out there with that 48-foot long thing, and you're like, man, I got an extra ball in the bag, and there's two groups waiting on the tee. So no, you don't see that at Pebble because
That's
you're
true.
so elevated from the
What about
ocean.
in some
So
of the trees and stuff? I mean, are they just scouring through
oh,
there
there's
trying to
balls.
find?
Don't stay. No, no. What are you talking about?
I'm
No,
reaching, Bobby. I'm
I've never
reaching.
seen a Okay, I've never seen a multimillionaire scale a tree, look for a ball. No,
No, no, no,
I
no.
know.
Like in the higher grade. Never mind. We're
No,
moving on from this topic.
in the rough, in the rough. Let's get back to
Yeah.
the Siwoo Kim Invitational because brother, did he get it done? And I hate to say anything, congratulations to Manny Vajegas, but guess who hooked him up with that bag? We told the whole story
Oh
here.
my
So
gosh. I
yeah,
actually
you think he's gonna
completely.
take you think he's gonna take care of me? Because I always have a deal when I flip guys players. I'm like, hey man, if something good happens, take care of the take care of the caddy
Well, I'm
master.
gonna send him this episode, so.
No.
And then I'm gonna say,
Manny,
"Hey,
please.
Manny, we brought you some really good luck, and Bobby hooked you up with this gig. So how
Yeah.
about throwing me some new Air Jordan drops and throw
Shit.
Bobby a couple
See,
dunks, and we'll just call
that's
it a
why
day."
I can't ask him because you remember they had a good turn. They had a shortly after I got him in with Siwoo, that he had a good tournament. And remember the Jordan Retro
That's
3
true.
showed up for my kids at $150 a pop. That's not like a couple grand or something like that. But I sent him a congratulations text because I was truly happy for him. And I'm very good friends with Siwoo, even though I don't work for him, and I worked for him for a couple of years. But you just had a feeling that he was going to get it done because he relishes that moment, right? I mean, it is he Siwoo Kim is the first one to tell you, I play to win. I don't play for T28. I play to win,
I
right?
mean, he's
So,
Sony Open champ, bro.
bro, fuck, he's
That's the
four-time
name of
champ.
this episode.
He is on the Open champ. So he's a four-time champ, and the chip in on 17 was just phenomenal. And there's a little too many there. We don't get a lot of people there, but there's two little mini grandstands right there. It's a perfect setting. It's right on the water right there. And he gave the old fist pump and the old tiger
It was
throwing
a
his arms
pretty
up in
chip.
there.
I mean, he
Yeah.
executed that
He's
absolutely
not
perfectly.
what how many times have I said these Koreans are fucking never dead, right? That's why they're so aggressive and they go at every flag. So they're never dead. And so I was watching on Shot Tracker because I couldn't watch it live because I was
It was
in
a
a shuttle.
fucking great chip.
Yeah, no, I saw it like fucking 48 times because I just want to see his reaction, dude. But I was watching the shot tracker to see what he did on 18 and he pulled that 3 wood. It's a funky tee shot. You really got to snap hook something. What is that?
That was an alarm for some reason. I think I set an alarm for tomorrow morning for tonight. Not good. Not good in the middle of an
I think
episode.
I think you are running rough, man, because your mental clock's off. It's not tomorrow morning yet. Anyways, I was
I'm
watching
almost done
shot
with
track.
this, so
Yeah,
I'll be back in the game here in a
you'll
second.
be good. You'll be good. So, anyways, he hits the 3 wood in the left bunker, but that left bunker is not bad. He had like 240, and you just knew he was going to knock it on the green. I think he knocked it on there to like 40 feet, two putted, posted 18. Hayden Buckley had made a birdie on 16, and I think Siwoo even said in his interview when he was over his chip on 17, he goes, "At first, I was just going to play conservative and not get crazy with it and try and make a three." He goes, "But I heard the roar on 16. I knew Buckley made a birdie, so he's like, I had to fucking try and make it." And he sure as shit made it. And then Buckley had his chance to birdie 18, and I think he missed. I think he missed a 10 footer or 11 under. And congratulations to Siwoo. He is man. This between Siwoo, Sungjae, Tommy Kim, and KH Lee. I mean, man, we got four guys that are top 40 in the world players right now, and I think one of them we'll get into a little bit later. I think one or two of them might have a say in it this week too. So it was a great week. Am I missing anything? You want to talk about our snafu with JJ Spawn? Are we at that point yet?
Oh my gosh. Well, I do want to give one little shout out since he was working
Okay,
out at the gym before heading over to Hawaii. Andrew
putty,
Putnam. I
putty.
mean, my goodness.
What did you know? This is 13 cuts in a row for putty.
He's playing some good golf. He played some really good golf at the end of last year. And
Mhm.
now I mean, dude, he's steady Eddie. You
He
get him
is
on a
Mr.
course that is in 7,500 plus yards, and he's
Yeah,
in great shape. But he's
yeah.
working
Well,
out, so
yeah, he is working out. I saw the stash you were talking about too. That's a
oh,
full-on
dude,
porn star.
that is
Yeah,
phenomenal. I didn't even recognize him in the gym. It's like in the mornings when I go in, there might be like three people in there. Like Biz from Spit and Chicklets is in there. He was in there this morning. Andrew Putnam was in. I saw Kevin Streelman is in there, and so I'll see them, but it's like only three guys in the gym at one time a lot of times. And so I saw
yeah.
him and I'm looking at him I'm like, how do I know you? I just kept
Yeah.
staring at him. I'm like, hopefully he doesn't look at me and think I'm creepy right now because I'm not watching him
Right.
work out. I'm like, I
Right.
know you
Right.
from
Right.
somewhere. And I'm like, that stash is like a Johnson Wagner stash. Like
Yeah, totally.
that's a real deal Holyfield right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real deal. Holy well, 13 cuts in a row for him. I don't think many of them have been outside the top 20 or the top 25. And I'm super stoked for him because he's a real quiet guy to play with, and he just goes about his own business, plays his own game. It's nothing pretty down there. He kind of hits a little skanky cut off the tee, doesn't hit super duper far. But we've been paired with him 3 or 4 times since the US Open, and we were paired with him at the US Open, and he made the cut there. And I feel like that's almost where it started. And I'm super happy for his caddy is a young kid from SoCal named, we call him Gilf. It's Jordan Guilford. And he came out, he's really good friends with Bo Hostler. And he came out with Bo Hostler. And Bo Hostler will tell you himself, I'm not talking shit, but he's a tough bag, right? He's just a tough bag. He
He
could
just seems like a
get,
tough bag.
yeah, he's just a verbally abusive guy to caddies, and he fired Gelf a couple times, and I know that Gelf, was probably sad about it because it's tough caddying for a buddy, right? That's the hardest thing. It's the greatest thing when they're playing good or they win because two guys get to share that together that are good friends. But when the wheels are going off the rails, it can just be fucking brutal. So shout out to Gelf. He's a single young white surfer skater dude who's making some money, and I really didn't know if he could caddy or not. I knew he was a good player, but when you see new young guys come out and they're wearing Vans high tops or something like that, and long socks, and you're like, oh my god, Tony Hawk's third cousin fucking is caddying now. But after being out with him for a while, I will validate that he does a very good job, and I've said it numerous times on this show. Until a caddy wins with the player, he doesn't really get any redemption. And there's 50, 60, 70 guy, 80 guys out there caddying that have never won that just do a fantastic job. So little shout out to them. He's a gem of consistency. So let's talk about pennies. $1,000 penny bats. Let me tell everybody that Matt, let's just tell the story. Matt wanted to take JJ Spawn, and I was taking Russell Henley. And Matt goes, I don't think he's in the field. And me and Matt are never going to be nicknamed Einstein 1 and
No,
Einstein 2
absolutely not.
because I didn't think he was in the field either until the next morning when you sent some text messages that started with mofo. I don't know what that means. Or
I was like,
you
Bobby,
mofo,
you
you hustled me.
motherfucker. You
Yeah.
bamboozled me, you son of a
Yeah.
bitch. That
I
was
would
my
never
that
do.
was my
Yeah.
text messages.
1 million pennies, I would have gone. I would have pulled out all the stops, but
I
not for a
really thought you
thousand
fucked with
pennies.
me because I
No, I would
wasn't
never do
entirely
that.
sure. Well, that was my first impression. Then when you gave me the and by the way, this was such a hustle by you that
No.
backfired
Yeah.
because you went with
Yes.
freaking Hideki Matsui. But so Bobby, everybody understand this. Bobby goes, "Oh, let me go with one of the past champions, Hideki Matsuyama, who plays this course amazing, and I'll give you another 1,000 penny bet." You made it like out of pity, as if like
Yeah.
you were doing me some favor, which it ended up
Oh,
turning out to be. But I knew what you
well,
were doing, you savage. But you're down so
no.
much. You're down six
Right.
thousand pennies. So I'm like, you know what?
Right.
I'm gonna throw you this, and nobody
Right.
expected Tom Kim except as soon as we were done with the podcast, and then the next morning, I looked it up and he's the favorite for the tournament. I
Mm-hmm.
go, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, this is the first time he's ever been the favorite for a tournament. And I'm sure he's being asked about it by the media. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that's got to, it's just a different type of pressure. Like, it's not like
Probably.
you're in the moment. Like, this is premeditated. You have to deal with this in advance that you're the favorite going into this golf tournament. I bet he's never dealt with that before. And he
Well,
misses
dude,
the fucking cut, Bobby. It definitely
stop.
affected him.
Well, I will say, okay, I'll take that worth a grain of salt. That's worth something. But listen, this is Sony on an island. There's not the normal media there. You're not getting bombarded for interviews or anything like that. Jesus, 70% of the crowd out there is Japanese, and it's a predominantly Japanese club, anyways, because it's so close to Japan. So, I'm gonna call bullshit on that. But I'm gonna say
Wow,
this.
I like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
call,
I'm gonna
call
say
me on
this.
my
You
bullshit, Bobby. The
you know
fans
you
need it.
you Every week the jury is still out with me. I'm the only guy that the jury's out on Tom Kim. Like I'm just not sold. Everybody else is sold on him, and when he plays good, I'm like, oh man, how could I be so wrong? I should be sold on him. Then he misses the cut last week. So, anyways, what Matt's trying to say is we ended up breaking even because Genius Me thought the winner was coming out of the Russell Henley, Tom Hoagie, Matt Kuchar threesomes,
You sure did.
and I didn't think Cooch could win. He ended up being low guy. I think he shot 11 or 12 or 13 under. He had a really good week. All three of those guys made the cut, but I was watching the leaderboard to make sure that Tom Kim was missing the cut. But can we talk about the one good call I bet I made for our gambling people? Oh, Fat Boy Sung Jae, no like
Oh
Honolulu.
my God, can I tell
I
you that
called it
I
two
actually
over.
bet on him
Miscut again.
to miss the cut. I bet on him. It was plus
You're welcome.
350, Bobby. Plus
Yep, you're
350.
welcome. I know
Phenomenal
what the
bet.
fuck I know what I'm talking about when it comes to him. And I saw Billy today. I go, how bad was it? He goes, oh, it was fucking brutal. And I mean, two missed cuts in a row and a T56 before me. And it's just like, man, I think some of these guys just feel because they play Maui. Only three guys, I think three or four guys came over from Maui and played anyways. It's like all the big time guys are like, yeah, see, I'm not going to go to Sony with all these elevated events coming up. But I always thought Sungjae had a chance to win Torrey Pines because he made a run there with me a couple years ago. He played pretty decent in the U.S. Open. He played pretty decent there last year with Billy, but Billy's like, oh, he's fucking brutal, and I'm like, I don't understand why he plays there. And now he's going to skip. Now he's going to skip Torrey Pines and Pebble to get ready for those big events. But every once in a while, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm just going to say
Bobby,
I
you
knew what I
you
was
always
talking
know what
about.
you're talking about. The
Yeah, it
thing
doesn't
that
work
I
out
don't
that way.
think that you have put together is that you got to stick with your guys that you really think are playing. Oh my God, what just happened
You're going to do
again?
some serious.
Hang
And
on.
here. I'm going to tell you what
There
I
we
tell the
go.
people in the crowd. Turn the
Oh,
fucking phone off.
yeah, seriously. I thought I probably hit snooze. Let's be honest
Yeah,
here.
yeah, you
I
probably
panicked
did.
that first time. The second time I just pulled it out and said, "Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Okay,
go
fuck it.
ahead and stop this alarm right now. I'm going to
Don't
stop
don't
you in your
feel
tracks."
bad. I said I hit snooze 40 times every morning, so don't feel bad about
Or
that.
that could have been the 15-minute increment. I'm not quite sure that
Yeah,
I set for my
yeah,
morning alarms. So
yeah. Could be.
that
It could be.
disaster.
So
Let's get
anyway,
back into it.
yeah. Get back into it. So we broke even on our $1,000 bets. Did I tell you that I was up? I got up. I was up 10,000 pennies. Quick little story. I was up 10,000 pennies on Troy Merritt from his little 3-day hit and giggle in Scottsdale. And Jerry Kelly's always in the field here, right? 25 years. Used to always make the cut. I think he won there at Sony a couple times. But we played with him a couple years ago, and he wasn't playing good when I was working for Sungjae, and you could tell he was having a bad day. And I'm like, I just wanted to say something because Jerry Kelly is the coolest guy in the world. And I'm like, man, the days like this happen or whatever. He's like, I'm not coming back. I just don't think I can go out here anymore, and that kind of stuff. So Genius Troy says to me, like when we're on the 16 tee on Thursday, and I don't think Kelly had teed off yet. He was the afternoon, obviously, with us being the morning. He goes, double or nothing. Kelly makes a cut on a 10,000 penny. I go, you're
Wow.
fucking on. He goes, actually double or nothing, top 25s. And I'm like, and I told him the story. I go, I don't want to take your money. Just double or nothing. He misses the cut. So he misses the cut. Now I'm up 20,000 pennies. And he goes, how are we going to go even? And I'll go double or nothing on my Chargers, right? They cannot lose. There's no way they can lose. So when it got to 27 nothing, I'm laying in my bed in my hotel room, and he sends me this meme or emoji where he's waving the white flag, and I'm like, oh, he's trying to bait me into a buyout. But me of all people should know the Chargers are the king of winning or losing games by 3 points or less, right? They do it. It seems like they do it every week. So I didn't respond, and now we're even. I'm not a good penny better.
My God, Bobby, are you?
I know.
You should have taken the cash out.
He didn't offer a buyout. I thought he was gonna let me go. Like, okay, I'll let you out for 30,000
I feel
pennies
like
or
I'm in a state
35.
of shock right now based off
I
of
don't
what
know.
transpired.
Want to hear about my plane flight on the way back? Oh my god, what a disaster! This plane flight on the way back, I got 30. It's a 3, 3, and 3, right? Three on the side, three in the middle, three on the right, right? So I book it, and I got like 32F, right, which is a middle aisle, which is not comfortable for a 6 foot
It's not
three
good.
guy that's just caddied. that day. So I'm looking at like the economy comfort upgrade for 87 bucks. And I'm like, oh, wow, I've been on these planes before. There's one in 20, let's call it 24D that's in front of the bulkhead, excuse me. But I know that bulkhead is next to a couple shitters, right? But I know you can stretch your feet out quite a bit. So I'm like, I'm paying the 87 bucks. I don't want to be miserable. So I'm not thinking straight. So when we get on the plane at 11:15 or whatever, I'm in fucking La La Land. There's no air conditioning in this whole goddamn Honolulu airport. I'm overheating. I probably got a caffeine hangover from fucking 2 days before that. And so I get on the plane and I show the guy where I'm seating, and I'm like, yeah, I fucking know where to go. I fucking travel 35 weeks a year, you cock. So I get on the plane and I get in the seat that I think is mine, right? And I get in the seat and I'm like, wow, a blanket, a pillow, and there's like 10 controls for the seat. And I look back and there's Sabatini and another caddy and a bunch of other dudes, and they're waving at me. And I'm like, oh, I feel important. I'm up here where the players sit and everything like that. They're in economy comfort. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Tons of legroom in this bulkhead. About 15 minutes go by, and here comes this Asian couple with two kids, and they like stop at our row and they stare at our row, and then
Oh
they start
no.
talking in ping pong total, and they go down and they come back, and the wife speaks English. She goes, oh, excuse me, I think you're in our seat. And I'm like, let me see your ticket, right? Because I don't think they can read the tickets. Most of them can't. So I go, oh my fucking God. So I had to get my shit.
Oh no.
And the walk of shame by Sabo and all the other caddies and players are the caddies I know are using miles. They're not paying fucking
Oh no, you
$800.
had to do the entire walk of shame. Where were you?
Well, I was in 10 or something like that. It was two cabins of
But it
for
was like, was it a
I guess
different class?
you're goddamn right. It was a different class. So I had to do
Fuck.
the walk of shame.
No.
I got my backpack and I got a carry-on that is loaded with $9 million worth of high chew candy and Honolulu Cookie Company for my
Oh
posse
no.
back home. So I'm like, if there's no fucking room in that overhead when I get back here. And so there was room in the overhead, and I got to my seat and I'm like, oh, this isn't bad. It's not bad. There's no blanket, there's no pillow, there's no controls or anything like that. And so I'm like, I'm pretty, I'm comfortable. So we don't even take off. I pop like two 5 milligram melatonin. So I'm like, okay, this is going to work or they're going to backfire on me. Right. So
It
there's a
can
big dude.
backfire.
There's a big dude in C next to me across the aisle. And I mean, a big dude, like a 280-pound dude. And I mean, this plane hasn't even taken off, and this guy's like, and so I heard that for the whole fucking 5 hours. And I got off the plane in Phoenix, and we had a 3.5 hour layover to begin with to fly
Wait a
straight
second.
into
You
Palm
came to
Springs.
Phoenix and you didn't even come to say hi?
I
Ah,
wasn't there for
Bobby.
no, it's
Jesus.
just a
Do you know
layover.
I still have your Christmas
You get to
present sitting
I
here?
got yours too, but
I
if you keep
know.
sassing off to me, you're never gonna see it. So so we get off the plane and now they tack 2 hours onto that. So now you got a 5.5 hour layover after that monstrosity of a flight that I did not sleep at all. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to find a gate where there's nobody at. It was MLK, Martin Luther King Day.
It
Everybody was
was.
traveling, and I wolfed down a
Everybody's off.
burger and tried to find a place to charge my phone. And I made it here yesterday safe and sound. And I'm like, oh, all I want to do is do my laundry and go to sleep. My mom picked me up to the airport, love her to death. And she's asking me 35 questions about golf. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not in the mood right now. Let me get some sleep. So I got back here and I'm like, the course is right around the corner. So I'm like, I'm going to go register. And I get bombarded for tickets this week because my family lives here. And I got old high school drunk friends that come in. So I'm trying to hustle up. This tournament we used to get nobody, and now American Express takes over, and they've had these fantastic concerts on Friday and Saturday night. So Friday night we have Gwen Stefani. Everybody knows Gwen
Oh,
Stefani,
hell.
and which I know her more from No Doubt because she's a SoCal
Yeah.
chick, and No Doubt killed it back in the day. And Darius Rucker is playing on Saturday, so I'm dealing with all this stress of tickets. And it used to be most of our tickets now are done by Ticketmaster, and you digitally transfer them to emails and stuff like that. Well, this tournament hung tough forever until this year, and it was just paper tickets. So it was great. I could bring back 40 paper tickets, and everybody could come over. And the rule was don't come over when I'm here because I don't want to see any of you people. I'm trying to work. I don't want to see anybody slamming 20 beers, especially after dealing with Micah last weekend. And now they're digital, so I've been fucking
Micah
stressing
told
them
me.
about. stressing, I've been stressing, yeah, I've been stressing about sending tickets and all this other bullshit, but I'm here safe and sound. And my guy looked fucking, his coach is in town. Oh, I forgot to tell you the good thing. His flight was at 10:30, and he must have been just got on his flight. And oh, I'm so comfortable. Cause I told him about I told him, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in an economy comfort. This is going to suck. And he's like, hey, I got a lay flat and everything like that. He goes, oh, I'm so comfortable in my lay flat, Bob. And he goes, but there's a rumbling underneath the plane that is freaking me out. And I'm like, what's he talking about? And I go, what are you talking about, man? And he goes, yeah, the old white putter that we made all that money with is dying to come back. And I'm like, fuck yeah, he actually does listen to me. And I told him today, I
Breaking
go,
news.
yes. And I go, I finally told him and his coach today because I was so excited that he said that. And he's much more engaged in these practice rounds when his coach is there putting because he wants to know, am I starting these things online? Does my streak look good? And and we got the old faithful back, and he looked. We it's 3 courses this week. I'll just give you the
Yeah,
rundown. I'll just jump right into the rundown of the
absolutely.
Amex. There's 3 courses this week, so there's two courses here at PGA West. There's actually like 5, but 2 on this property, and they are the host course would be the stadium course, which everybody knows for Alcatraz, for 16 and 17 there, that big, yep, there you go, 17 Alcatraz, they call it right there. Man, it looks so different without grandstands behind it when we play it. It's so weird. So, and then there's the Nicholas tournament course, just kind of behind that, a few hundred yards. So we rolled through the front of the Nicholas tournament course, hit every green, drove it great, making every left to right putt he looked at. He was grinding. Then we rolled over and drove the cart over and played the front side at the stadium course, which you don't need to play them all. You don't need to play them all out here, especially if you've been out here for 10 years. And I lived there for 10 years and I've been over these golf courses umpteen times. And then we play a little country club over in the corner of La Quinta called La Quinta Country Club that's 67 or 6,800 yards, and it's super duper tight. And so we'll play over there. We'll play 9 holes over there, and then he has a Titleist gig he has to do at a private club over here, kind of behind me. You guys don't know where I am, but I'm in La Quinta at a place called the Palms. It has a lot of good players, so he's doing a Titleist corporate thing. So 9 holes tomorrow, and we should be ready to go. But what I'm really excited this week is because we missed a cut here last year. We had to finish eagle birdie birdie. We got the birdie birdie part right, finishing on the Nick tournament course, but we didn't make the eagle, and I think we ended up missing by 2, obviously. But this year I feel like we're a week or so ahead of time because he got the COVID at Sony last year, right? So it's almost like this week last year was his Sony. And he missed the cut, but then he came right back and he tried to win Pebble. He finished top 30 at Scottsdale. So I'm
Don't
cautiously
jinx it,
optimistic.
Bobby.
No, but
I'm not gonna let.
you know when your guy looks good, and my guy looked really good today, and hopefully he looks really good at La Quinta. These golf courses you can go super low. Everybody thinks the stadium course is super tough, but the fact is that somebody early in the week is going to shoot an 8 or a 9 under on the supposed tough course, but low 20s usually wins around here, anywhere from 22 to 25-ish, I'm going to say. But the one you really got to get is La Quinta. It's tight, but it's super short. So if you're driving it good, it has definitely the best greens on the West Coast, but it might have the best greens on the PGA Tour. They're old school They are firm, and you can just get it going over there. And that's always been kind of his Achilles heel in the past, was he'd always shoot 2 or 3 under at La Quinta when you really need to shoot 4 or 5 or 6 3 days in a row to be in contention. I will say that I think the scores are going to be a little bit lower this year because I noticed that these greens, because they're overseed greens here. I'm going to say they're overseed bent here, these greens, but they usually take like a frozen bounce. You know what I mean by a frozen bounce? Like when you
Yep,
play a green that's
very
accidentally
firm.
frozen. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we weren't getting that, and it was soft. And I
A
all of a
lot of
sudden
rain,
noticed
Bobby.
yeah, yeah, a lot of rain. Yeah, but we got 60-mile-an-hour winds last night that knocked a bunch of stuff over, and there's nothing. They are receptive, but they're moving. I felt like they're moving 12-ish on the stimp today. But my other point was I noticed they must have had a big storm come through here. I didn't check with my mom, but they lost a ton of trees over on the stadium course, and you never really run into T trouble, but they're in strategic places where sometimes you have to hit a real creative shot. So I think scores are going to be. Jesus, I'm out of breath already. I think scores are going to be a little bit lower this year, probably in the mid 20s. So next week I'll give you a report on this whole thing went down, but we got some gambling to do on
Who
some
you got?
pennies.
Who you got, huh? You want to go deep on this one, since I'm getting a little jelly that you and Troy are doing 10,000 penny bets and
No, I'm
doubling
not going to do
down,
that.
and
I'm down 6,000 pennies,
jeez.
dude. This is all for fun. And if I start raising the stakes, I might get a call from the PGA Tour that I
Yeah,
have something to do
probably.
with gambling and everything. But
Could
technically,
you imagine? And
but
then,
I
but
know.
there's no payout, so there's nothing.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it just keeps carrying
It's your pick.
over.
It's your pick, though. It's still your pick because we slicked last
No,
week.
come
Yeah.
on.
Well, okay, listen, here's the deal. You want me to pick first?
I do.
Si Woo Kim.
Wow, you think he's gonna go? I was gonna ask you if you think he's
He
gonna go
won
back to
here.
back.
You know, he
I
won
know.
here
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and he finished 11th last year. He sneaky finished 11th last year. You know who I was going between? I was going between Siwoo and Sungjae because 2 years ago,
Yep.
I had Sungjae and we were leading showing up Sunday morning. There was no way he was going to lose this golf tournament. I've never seen a man control his golf ball for 3 days like he did. And he was one drive away on number 9 on the stadium course. He had a big flare into the water on the right on a wide open fairway, and we somehow walked out of there making triple bogey and ended up finishing 7th or for 8th. And he tied with Siwoo last year. So I was kind of jockeying which Korean I like, but I'm going to go with the guy who's not fucking scared and doesn't yell at his caddy, Manny Vajegas. And supposedly, according to the press, he has a new attitude this year where he's going to be a lot more patient. I don't believe it. Everybody can say that after they won. So I'm going to take Kim Si-woo. What you like? Good field this week.
Wow.
Good field this week. Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Patrick Cantlay. Need I say more?
A lot
All
of
kinds of
guys. I
President
can't
Cup
believe.
players.
I mean, you were the guy, by the way, just a couple weeks ago when we were
Yeah.
doing our beginning of the year analysis or the
Mm-hmm.
end of the year. And I asked you, I
Yeah.
go, Bobby, how many guys are going to win multiple times on tour this year?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
nobody.
Ugh.
So
No,
now you're
that's
already
not true.
betting. Am I
Well,
am I
back up.
misquoting you?
You're fibbing. I said John Rahm and Patrick Cantlay, didn't I? So,
Oh, yeah, you
so
did.
I'm hope I'm wrong for 1,000 pennies. You
Yeah.
listen,
How about
my
that?
man Siwoo doesn't. Do I think he's going to win? No, I don't think he's going to win. But do I think he's going to punk whoever the fuck you're about to pick? Yes, I do. So fire away. Who do you like?
Oh
Yeah.
boy. And guess what? This one's gonna hurt you. This one's gonna hurt
Okay.
real bad.
John Rahm.
No,
Who?
Brian Harmon.
Oh, you
Your
did do your
boy.
research this time.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I wasn't
See.
going to get called out again on a Tony Finau
Yeah.
situation based off
Yeah.
of
Let
gut
me guess.
instinct. I'm
You
going,
pulled up last year's leaderboard and saw he finished T3, and he's a putting specialist, and
listen,
Lee
I
greens
pulled
are
up the
pure.
past 5 years. So
Yeah.
let's go,
Okay.
Brian Harmon. Let's go. We got La Quinta Country Club to get after. We're about to go 8 under at La Quinta.
I got first off. I got first off again. We got first
You
off again
do.
Thursday
I
at the
saw
state.
that.
Yeah, at the stadium course, and he's playing with a good friend of his, Chesson Hadley. He plays a lot of practice rounds with him, and Chesson's a good, solid player. He's been out here for a long time. Has yet to have win a golf tournament. I don't know if he's really had many chances. I think he had a chance somewhere last year and played horrible on Sunday, but he can get a little moody too. So we'll see how that goes. But you play with two chops out here, two amateurs. Excuse me. Oh my God, I just burped. It's like a Pebble Beach format, where you play with two amateurs and they always seem to get in their way, and they got some caddy that's probably getting all your way, which was probably me back in the day when I was doing these amateur events. But I actually think I was good because I was paranoid to bother any of the tour caddies back then because they were intimidating, or the players. So Brian Harmon, maybe this is going to backfire on you because when I talk shit and you didn't do your research and you were just betting Tony Finau because he's Tony Finau, you won. But maybe now this time you did your research. Maybe I got a
I
chance.
normally do my research. I went with Tony because I really felt I just had that
Yeah.
he got hot at
Yeah.
the end of last year, and I just felt like he had enough time.
Yeah.
He got the rust off down in Mexico,
Right.
and that was listen, it wasn't that long ago that I had bet on Tony Finau to miss the cut in Mexico, and he did. So
Yeah.
let's call a spade here. I won
Well,
that bet with you for 1,000 pennies based off of my gut instinct. And
yeah.
now I'm doing research and I'm going back to the statistics. And
Okay.
I think my boy Brian Harmon, who's been playing pretty good,
Well,
by the way,
I know. Oh, I got good news for you. His caddy was on the plane, so I know he's in the field this week. You
that
can't
almost
fuck that
came
up.
through my nose.
I'm
I
out of I'm out of breath. You got to do some talking now. You got to take over for
Bobby,
five
you've been
minutes or
on a roll,
so.
man. I didn't want to stop you. You were absolutely
Oh,
crushing it.
I am overtired. I look tan though. I got that little Honolulu
You
tan.
do. You
I
look
starting to get these.
good.
I'm starting to get these sunspots on the side, you know. And my doctor looked at me. He's like, You're fine." But so now I'm wearing the wide brim hat, and I'm putting some sunscreen on the side. And I almost feel like a football player out there with all the white shit on
Are
because I don't
you
like rubbing it in.
are you gonna rock the Aussie Titleist hat this week
Yeah, I bet
at
I
all?
rocked it all. Well, if you would have saw our one highlight on PGA
Well,
Tour, you would have known
if you
that.
guys would be on TV at all, that'd be fantastic.
We were on once. First shot,
I
first hole
missed
of the
it.
day on first hole of the day on PGA Tour live
Oh my,
when they got to
you know
cover
what's
somebody.
hilarious about that
What?
is
What?
I was busy and I couldn't watch the beginning part and I never went back
Yeah.
to go watch it. So there you
I
go.
watched that replay like 4 times when he hit the stuff that wedge in there at 10, and you see me walking across the green. I'm like, God damn, I walk like a dork. Oh, do I walk like a dork? But yeah, I'm walking the big brim
The
Aussie
Aussie.
style hat. I think I sent you one or two of those,
You
didn't I?
did.
See,
You
I'm
sent
a
me
good
one. You
friend.
sent me
I
one.
sent.
It's
Don't
got
get
all the
greedy.
patches though. No, it's got all the
Yeah,
patches. I mean,
yeah. Probably got
it's
75
legit.
bucks for that on eBay,
Bobby,
bro.
I am very grateful for
Okay,
the stuff that you
okay,
sent out to me. That was fantastic.
okay,
Now,
cool.
let's talk a little bit about while we got our picks in,
Yeah,
we talked about, and by the way, well, how do
yeah.
you feel about the Saturday cut as a caddy?
I
So,
don't mind it.
no,
It's one more day to try and make the cut if you're jonesing to make the cut out here, and
that's
it's
true.
3 rounds under your belt. It's 3 rounds under your belt, anyways. Granted, we're off next week. He won't go back. He gets his ass kicked at Torrey Pines next week. He made the cut there. I said it a few times in the U.S. Open, and that was his swan song. So we'll jam back home for 6 days, and then honestly, our biggest tournament of the year is coming up after that, and that's Pebble Beach, and you
No,
just
it's
want your
not.
man.
It's the
Yeah,
People's Open. It's the Waste Management Open.
well,
That
for
is your
you,
biggest tournament of the year, Bobby. And
not
I
for
can't
Mr.
wait
Pebble.
for to just annoy the shit out of you that week. I'm gonna be absolutely pumped.
Well, well, you might
You're
as well
gonna
just tell me
tower
how
over me
many.
though.
Well, you might as well fucking tell me right now how many tickets you want, so I can get that out of the way early in the week. 'Cause I
Oh,
expect to see you.
I have 42 requests. So
You and the future Mrs. Cooker in. I don't know about those other 40 motherfuckers.
maybe a dozen. How about a dozen? Can we make a dozen happen? I feel like we can. Talk
I
to the
don't know.
Thunderbirds. All
Yeah,
right.
right. They're busy doing rails.
Valid. I mean, good for
No,
them.
yeah, no shit. So,
So,
anyways, what else we got?
everybody, 3 courses this week out
Yep.
at La Quinta. We've got obviously the stadium course being the two staples. There's going to be a Saturday cut. And let's talk really quick. Let's transition into one of the big equipment changes. And it's not really
Yeah.
that big, but I will say
Nah.
this. One of my buddies out at Mountain Shadows, Mark, shout out to you, buddy, because he has this thing to where if you hit a tiny little fade, coming into
Uh-huh.
one of those pins out there at Mountain Shadows. He calls it a
Yeah.
woodland. Like he just yells it out. He goes, "Woodland."
Because it
And
slides a little bit.
it just slides a little bit to the right and just kind of drops in there. And
Yeah.
apparently he's been doing this for a while, but Gary was there like a year ago for like one of his
Mhm.
boys' bachelor parties, right? So he's in
Mhm.
Scottsdale. They're playing Mountain Shadows. And sure enough, my buddy has to go up to him and tells him, he's like, "Hey, Gary, guess what?" He's like, "What?" And of course, he had just hit one like over. It's the one little hole where it's like 75 yards, but there's water all the way pretty much around, except if you go long. And sure enough, he went right at the pin, dunked it in the water, didn't realize there was water over to the right. And he goes, Gary, the
I'm
shot
sure
you
this
just
is what
hit.
Gary wanted to hear.
No, this was not what
Yeah.
Gary wanted to hear at all. And this is coming from him. He's like, went up to him, I'm like, "Gary, you know what we call that shot?" He's like, "Me and my buddies, every time anybody hits a little fade coming into a
Yeah.
hole, he's like, we just yell out woodland." And he's like,
Yeah.
he actually chuckled on it, but sure
Yeah.
enough, like he was
Yeah.
100% in the water and he didn't realize that. So Gary
Yeah.
wasn't too happy afterwards, but
Right.
he at least got to say it to him. So Gary Woodland ends up going to Cobra. So maybe he won't hit it in the water this year.
Well, I mean, his contract was up with Wilson, and and now they got Kisner, so contracts are up and money talks, right? So he probably got a little bit more money. Puma owns Cobra, right? Puma is the parent company, so he's always been a Puma guy for the last. I'm gonna say what
Oh,
he was
that's a
Under
good
Armour for a
connection
while.
there. I didn't think
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, yeah. So those
Yeah.
Puma guys, those Puma guys have been known to go to Cobra. So, equipment's equipment, right? There's not much difference between, one or the other. It's really what looks good to those guys and obviously performs well. I mean, that's kind of a stupid thing I said that, but I'm sure he did a lot of testing in the off season. So, there was another,
Well, those
remember we were,
irons,
yeah, yeah,
those are
there was
money.
enough. Remember we were talking about the whole our theories on Liv and Cantlay not signing with Titleist, and
Yep.
maybe the leak info I got is 100% accurate about him looping over to Live, which remains to be seen, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But remember, I told you I had a theory that fucking Poulter wasn't doing his whole Titleist stuff, like propping, I got 5,000 GoPros and new wedges, and I don't know what to use, and this is my studio. I mean, and Poulter, everybody loves me. One of our viewers, our guy, Tyler Brown from Northern California, sent me a screenshot like a few days ago. He goes, "Fuck, you might have nailed this one too," and it showed Poulter's new setup, and there was no Titleist bag involved. It was
Wow.
what's his team called, the Majestics? It was a Majestics bag for his team bag for Live. So I think they maybe rendezvoused him out the side door too with some of these other Live guys. So thought
I
I'd throw
did
that in there.
notice, I actually read an article by Golf WRX talking about how,
Golfworks, yeah,
yeah, how they are saying that the manufacturers, not so secretly, have really kind of pulled back from all the live guys. And so a
yeah,
lot of them are looking for new contracts. Happened with Anaban Lahiri once he announced. Then you've got obviously a lot of transitions over the offseason heading into
yeah,
this year. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I will say
yeah.
this, our guys down, our Aussie guys that listen to the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, they were calling you out a little bit. They heard the
On,
Patrick Cantlay interview where he said, he's not going, blah blah
yeah,
blah. It did, but
yeah,
here's the thing, and I told our social media guy, hey, just tell them that, you know, it takes time, and
yeah,
this whole thing is for him to take over Phil's team. So whether it happens
yeah,
this year or next year, but there's still time this
yeah,
year, and he probably wants to play in the PGA Tour
yeah.
events he can until he ends up leaving. But I mean, what do you have to say to that? I mean, it
I don't.
is.
They could be right. I mean, they could be right. I mean, do we want to jump right? There's a lot of shit going on Live right now, and it could be scaring somebody like that. I know that's a whole topic for you to discuss, and you're our roaming expert on that. But they couldn't listen. I'm not right on everything. I got a great connection. He tells me everything as soon as he hears it, and he's usually spot on. But
He is usually spot on.
all I can say in that defense, Aussie dudes back there slugging whatever you're slugging right now. We broke that Mito Pereira was leaving about fucking 2 months ago, and that isn't even 100% official. So these things get slow played with Live unless they want them to get fast played. And did you notice it's just the last week that it's popping up that, oh, it's reported that Mito Pereira, number 46 in the world's going, and I'm like, we fucking said that 2 months ago.
At
So
least
be
two
be
months ago. It might have even
be
been
paid.
longer than that.
Be patient with me, Aussie guys. You know I fucking love your players, and they're the coolest guys on the planet. So cut me a break. I'm a fucking caddy, for Christ's sake. I'm not always right. I did the math over the last 20 years, caddy, and I'm right 80% of the time. 80%.
It's a lot
Just
better
like
than
Bones, but not as
in
rich.
Anchorman. I mean, with the Black
Yeah,
Panther.
yeah,
But
yeah. There you go.
the Netflix documentary, we got to talk about
Oh
this before we get
God.
to Live, which this is going to tie us into
Oh
Live
God.
because
Okay.
listen to this. So, one, it's called Full Swing. So, I used to work
Yeah.
for a golf simulator company, was VP of sales and so forth for a company called Full Swing Golf, which we shortened the name during my time to Full Swing. So,
Hmm.
of course, they're eating this up because a lot of SEO value. Everybody's searching for Full Swing now, and the simulator company's coming up. But get the cast of players here: Jordan
Yeah. Go
Spieth,
ahead.
Justin
Right.
Thomas, Colin
Hey.
Morikawa, Brooks
Hey.
Koepka, Scotty
Oh.
Scheffler, Ian Poulter, Rory McIlroy, your guy who you know well, ripping rails, Dustin Johnson. We got
Hmm.
Tony Finau,
Yeah.
Matt Fitzpatrick, Sahith Thagala, Joel
Yeah.
Damon,
Yeah.
Mito Pereira, and
Uh-huh.
Cam Young. Now,
Yeah.
in the very first trailer,
Mhm.
Netflix, and I love the internet, Twitter especially, because the Twitter guys figured this out real fast. They're like,
Yeah.
a question got posed, who's the guy in the trailer throwing a
How do
fucking
you not
temper
know that
tantrum?
in the locker room?
And they even found a photo of Ian Poulter in that exact outfit that he was wearing
Yeah,
at,
for sure.
And
I knew
so
it was him right off the bat.
I know I did too. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
there's nobody that throws a temper tantrum like that other than Poltz. So
yeah,
sure enough, he's sitting in there just absolutely destroying the locker
yeah,
room. I mean, just
yeah.
tossing
Look,
clubs,
look,
whatever.
can I comment on that? That's fucking bullshit right there. That is a staged. I know the cameras are on me, and I'm Ian
Well,
Poulter, and I
Polta,
love the
he's an
fucking cameras.
entertainer. He's an
Listen,
entertainer.
dude,
Very
that's a crock of
eccentric.
shit. No, I've been in those locker rooms up to 1,500 times when guys miss cuts, and it's very rare does anybody they might bang their lockers and stuff like that. You hear some grumbling, but usually when guys come in there miss the cut and guys make the cut, it's very quiet because you don't want to, it's two two realms, or what do I want to say? It's two different sides of the atmosphere or spectrum or whatever. But he knew the fucking cameras, or he knew the
Oh,
fucking camera. Yeah,
100%.
listen, of all those guys that you named right there, there's like 4 or 5 that I think are real genuine guys. And like Joel Damon, Saeed Thigala, and maybe a couple other ones who I am going to
Cam
enjoy.
Young.
And Cam Young, yeah, he doesn't
Mito
talk a
seems
lot, but
pretty.
yeah, he's cool. But come on, you get into who wants to, Spieth is cool, but you just feel like with Kepka and Dustin on there, and it's just like with their chicks, their wives, and everything like that. You're like, oh my God, these guys are on this documentary, and I know everybody wants to see the world class players. What just came out the other night that I got one episode to watch was the tennis version. Break Point just broke on Netflix. It's 5 episodes of their F1 knockoff doc, and it is good, and it
Did
is
you see the
really, really good.
F1 doc that started
Oh
all of this?
yeah. Oh yeah,
Oh
I
my
rode through
God,
them.
what
It was
legendary
fantastic.
material that
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah,
hope
yes.
now, do you think that this is going to live up to the hype? Because
Mm,
if there was ever a year to start a documentary, it was last year. I mean they have everything on camera with the
yeah.
whole transition to live, the
Yeah.
dynamic there, all the interviews that were going on, Brooks
Yeah.
Koepka getting pissed off at the US Open for being asked those questions. Like all
Yeah.
this stuff is going to come out in
Yeah.
this. Do you think it's going to live up to the hype though?
I don't think anything's going to be as good as F1. And I feel like, well, I'm going to say this from my own personal standpoint. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way because when we were on the range at the Players, we were warming up next to Joel Damon. And, his caddy Gino is a big social media, pretty popular on social media. And he's a good guy. I didn't like him at first. I've got to know him. So I kind of like him a lot. And I think he's a good guy. And anybody that Joel says is a good guy, I'm going to bank on it. It's a good guy. But it just seemed like it was like, that Gino was like, "Oh, look at me! I'm going to be on Netflix." I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. So, and I don't know. I'm a little bitter, Bob, in my old age too, when it comes to those things where
You do get a
guys
little
are getting.
salty on some of
I
this new
do, I
age social
do,
media stuff. You
and I
get a
don't think that
little bit
I do.
what's
Maybe
the
it's
right word? Maybe it's the chafing of your
sour.
ass.
Yeah,
Ass
jealousy,
chafing. Bobby, do you
jealousy.
have ass
No,
chafing going on?
no, I got
Do we
probably
need
jealousy. But I don't want to
ah
see the egomaniacs like Dustin and Brooks Koepka and their wives and that kind of stuff. I want to see real raw guys trying to keep their card or how they got to the tour and that kind of stuff. I don't think it'll be anywhere close to F1. And if it's as good as this tennis documentary, I'll be a little surprised because I think the tennis documentary is phenomenal. And like I said, I got one episode left on that. So what do you think?
I don't think it's gonna live up to the hype.
Yeah,
And because it's the golfers, right? I mean,
right,
it's
right.
gonna be tough. I mean, you get stage things like what we saw with Poulter and so forth, and I don't think we're going to see the inner workings the way that they want to portray it and everything. Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
drama. There's going to be some great storylines. I think the storyline between Live Golf and the PGA Tour, and I just don't think it's going to give us any insights that we don't already know or
Hmm.
dynamics that we don't already know, like arguing between guys about how could you go over to Live Golf, like stupid shit like that. But actually, one of the things that you just mentioned that you hope isn't on there, I'm like, man, I would love to just see the shit show of DJ Paulina, Brooks, and Jenna Sims and that whole
Yeah.
dynamic. Like,
Well,
I
but we'll
want to
never
see
see.
how fake they can be on camera
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
do it consistently because
Yeah.
even the best when it comes to reality TV break at some point, right? So that's
Yeah.
where I would love to just see like that drama and that bullshit that goes on
Yeah.
with those couples and everything. So I'm against you on that one. I would love to
Okay.
see that shit. Now,
Okay.
you probably saw it firsthand for quite some time, so it's probably annoying as
Well,
shit to you.
maybe I'm chafing because they're probably gonna show Dustin and Pauline at their house with their 2 little boys and act like they're kind of super parents when we all know out here they're probably not really. They're super wealthy parents, but I don't know. I wonder if the nannies are gonna be on there too. You gotta have one for each
You
kid,
you
bro. It's
you
a lot of work
got it.
raising
You
2
gotta
kids.
have the nannies on camera. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
there's only one person in that relationship, and it's the nanny that sees the kid actually walk for the first time. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, maybe they'll go through Paulina's closet or something like that. That'll be good for all the female
that
up
could
and
be great.
comers.
I mean, it would be
Yeah, that could be
like,
good.
the what was the MTV Cribs? MTV Cribs. We could throw
Yeah,
that in there
yeah,
too.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
our buddy Perez, he did that. Not, I
Pah,
mean, gosh, that was great. He's got so much
yeah,
Jordan stuff, and he
yeah,
just
gets it all for
loves.
free.
Yeah, fantastic work there.
Yeah,
So long story short on that one, I'm excited for it, but I don't
yeah,
have expectations. I don't have high
yeah.
expectations for it.
Me either.
Like
Me either. But I'll
everybody
watch
was
it.
freaking out when it like that trailer hit. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be the most amazing thing ever. I started getting text messages from buddies. I'm like, it's not gonna be what you think it is. Like that's
Yeah,
probably the best of what it's gonna be, is
yeah,
just
I
that
agree.
trailer.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
let's transition to the
Sure.
latest on Live Golf because there's a lot of
Okay.
stuff going on there. I mean,
What you
first
got?
of all, let's start off with some speculation here from a different
Okay.
sport because this is where I started to. You and I were texting back and forth, and we were talking about quite a bit around some of the things that were going on, some of the articles that were being released, and so forth. And I'm like, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the PIF, let's call it, you
Yeah,
know, they're potentially buying the WWE.
potentially.
So
Yeah.
and if you're not familiar with that, Vince McMahon used to be the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. Now it is the Worldwide or what? I don't even know, World Wrestling Entertainment or something like that. I never understood what WWE actually stood for, but anyways, growing up, big fan of the WWF, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan for those fans out there. And when I saw that, and I see all these inner workings happening, so his daughter resigns as the CEO. Vince comes back in, who had like sexual whatever harassment charges and so forth from employees within there, and that's reportedly right. So that's not 100%. He's all of a sudden back at the helm. So obviously
Okay.
things are going down, right?
Right.
When there's smoke, there's fire. They've pushed this off because they're like, oh no, we're not like nothing's finalized. This isn't happening, because they started to see some of the bad press come in right off the bat. But my question to you that I posed off air
Yeah.
was, do you think that they're, kind of done with Live Golf right now, with all the executives leaving, the ship is
Yeah.
burning, and they're like,
Yeah.
listen, we're not even on the ship. We're just going to let it burn and we're going to
Yeah.
buy a new ship. And that's how
Yeah.
I kind of took that entire thing. But
Hmm.
now, as things are kind of transpiring, because remember, they only have 7 events set up and scheduled so
Yeah.
far. They
Yeah.
don't have an
Yeah, they
entire
do.
season schedule.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a lot of stuff going on. So stories are starting to be leaked, by the way, to the guy who hates Live Golf more than anybody, Iman Lynch,
Even
who
yeah.
he can't stand. I mean, he's written negatively on Live Golf from the very beginning. I had some
Mhm.
bones to pick with him over some of his early articles to where they were just so one-sided and jaded. And I hate that when it comes to that. So he's over at Golf Week, and these stories are leaking left and right. My
Mhm.
question was, will this season actually happen?
Yes. Yeah, it will. This season's gonna happen for sure. But I was reading the same thing, with them suing the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour countersuing, and now it's turned to where the PGA Tour wants discovery because PIF runs the whole thing, and PIF doesn't want to divulge things out of the discovery that's.
Reportedly,
Yeah,
93% they own Live
3%.
Golf.
Yeah,
93%, which makes them the
yeah,
majority owner, which makes them open to
yeah,
any discovery in
yeah,
any case. So they're trying to claim
yeah,
immunity like, hey, we're in Saudi Arabia, we've got nothing to do with
yeah.
this. But that causes a lot of complications.
Yeah, and I also read too, there was some article going around about the words out or something was leaked out, some documents with Trump, maybe how many millions that they paid Trump, and now it's turned into a national security thing. So, they're on tilt right now. Do I think they're going to get this going through this season? Yes. Do I think they're going to have 14 events? It remains to be seen. But I think it's kind of funny when we got like 30 days to kick off that you don't have a full schedule and everything was so gun ho. Ooh, I was telling you the rumblings now. It's bad for all these caddies, right? So because now they don't get all their expenses paid for, the nice hotels or the airfare or anything like that. So had that's the little gossip amongst the caddies and players now is that I guess apparently I've heard from a few caddies that these team captains got together and they're like, we're not paying these caddies on this team money anymore. I think they're agreeing on paying them a small percentage. So for a guy like Mike Hartford that works for Perez, that could be fucking bad news because he made all his money and so did Perez off the team thing, not off the individual thing. So I think they'll
Well,
get
I
it
feel
going
bad for
this
Scotty
year.
McGinnis. He's heading over
Well,
with
yeah,
Mito and
yeah, but I do think with a guy like Mito actually has a better chance of winning, let's say a Poulter or a Westwood or Audubon or something like that. I think he's just good enough that he can mix it up and might win one of those things. Honestly, to tell you the truth, so who knows? Do I think they're going to get going this year? Yes. Do I think they're going to have a season? Yes. Do I think it's going to be 14 events? I don't really know. I don't really know yet, but like we've said the last couple episodes, things aren't right there right now, and things aren't right. We're going to get word of more people dropping out here pretty soon. I have a feeling. So it's last year I was excited to watch the team thing, and I just don't think that there's that excitement for it. It just doesn't seem like that the fire and the sparks there. It's like who gives a shit now? Yeah, it was kind of cool to see that for a year, but
well, you know
now
what
it's
it
like
is? There's no rhetoric from the PGA Tour at this point,
yeah, yeah,
which was how
exactly.
they should have played it in the first place because that
Sure,
is what
sure.
led to the animosity, like, and that divided fans to where it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I hate the stuffy PGA Tour, and that built up a lot of resentment and a lot of like emotion around defending Live Golf to no cost, and then obviously vice versa as well. So it
Yeah.
went both ways, but you don't have the Live Golf fans that were so adamant and willing to
Yep.
defend at any cost
Right.
still that vocal. Like that is
Right.
tamed off. And
For
unless there
sure.
becomes this, once again, this big issue that arises between the two,
Yeah.
that's actually going to hurt Live. Like that
Yeah.
actually is going to be a deterrent away from their popularity and everything. But breaking news today, Bobby, and
Yes.
we were both all over this. You hit me up first on it. I had just seen it, and just hours before the show starts. So golf.com actually came out and they're reporting that there is a TV deal with the CW. Now, it is not your atypical TV deal, right?
Right.
So the
Right.
CW is not paying Live Golf to broadcast
Right.
Live Golf. Live
Right.
Golf
Right.
is paying them for access to
Right.
their cable channel and to get out to a worldwide network. Seems a little odd, but at the same time, obviously Fox Sports
Yeah.
had passed on them and everything. So that being
Yeah.
said, that's the only thing that tells me that yeah, this season's gonna happen.
Right.
Um, you know, it's tough though because there's so many people that are leaving that it's
Well,
like,
can I interrupt for a sec? Haven't we been down this road with them a couple times with, oh, we're getting Fox or oh, we're getting this, and they're like, and those things never materialized, remember? So who knows if this is I never even heard of the fucking CW channel. Have you? I wouldn't even know where to find it on my television. What does it stand for? Country Western? I'm
I,
serious.
I actually
Do you
don't
know?
know. I actually don't. But they claim that
Charleston
there's a
Weekly?
young demographic is what watches the
Oh,
CW. So that
okay.
could play
Well,
in with Live Golf.
well, okay.
I don't know.
We'll see, man.
Yeah.
They're in shambles. They're in shambles right now. I hate to say it. They're in
They,
shambles.
they're in
Those
tough
poor caddies.
they're in tough shape. I don't know if it goes beyond this year. That's my call. I say that
Right.
Live Golf doesn't go beyond 2023.
Right.
Now, also, our last
Yeah.
topic on Live Golf,
Right.
which we love defamation lawsuits.
Yes, we
Absolutely love them. Can't wait. Just excited
Right.
about all the defamation that
Yes.
goes on in the world.
Yes.
And
Oh
my
yeah.
God, we are like, here's the thing, folks, we're unfiltered. Like, this is what the podcast is. So when
We
we
talk shit.
hear about a Patrick Reed reportedly filing, well, hang
Jesus.
on, he hasn't filed yet. So that's
Yeah.
misinformation. They are threatening him and his law team, his legal staff.
Yeah.
I hate to laugh, but
Andrew Kozan or what? No, that's a player on the Corn Ferry
no,
Tour.
this is. I just love this. They're threatening that unless because of a CNN segment to where Bob Costas and
Somebody else.
Jake Tepper
Yeah.
were talking about Jake Tapper. They were talking about how Live Golf and all these guys, and then they were tying it all to 9/11. So, of course, who loves defamation lawsuits more than Patrick Reed? Nobody. Patrick Reed was
Justin
all over
Justin
it.
Reed. Justin Reed. Justine Reed. Justin. It
Justin.
looks like a Justin sometimes.
Yeah. So Patrick's now saying that with this defamation lawsuit, by the way, they're threatening a $450 million defamation lawsuit, which is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard, reportedly. And that being said, reportedly, you're going to hear that a lot. Reportedly,
Yeah.
reportedly, he is, if they don't give an on-air apology
Yeah,
within the
within
next
5 days.
48, I heard it's
Oh, I
down to
thought
48 hours.
okay, I thought it was fine.
I don't
Poor
like
baby.
this is
Poor
fantastic
little
stuff.
guy.
I mean, absolute like Patrick, do you not realize that your legal staff is just taking your money?
Yeah,
Like
I
they
know.
they love drawing this stuff up. They're going to
I
tell you
know.
all day long, "Oh, you got a great case. Great case against him." But guess what, Patrick? Do you understand that with a defamation lawsuit that you actually
Yeah.
have to prove that it cost
Right.
you that
Right.
money in your
Right.
career? That's what
Right.
defamation is.
Yeah.
Defamation is where it hurts you in your career making money because of things that people have said about you.
Right. Right.
Patrick,
Do
you
you
have
know?
made more money this
Yeah. What
past year than in your entire career.
did you see what Alan Shipnuck said? What he tweeted
No.
recently? He said, "I wonder if Patrick Reed went to Live Golf so he could pay for all these lawsuits." I love this Alan Shipnuck
Oh,
now.
he's coming
Didn't like
after
him at
everybody.
first.
I'm
No, I
very
love him.
curious to see. I'm on edge about CNN. I'm like, CNN, are are, are are you going to like are the powers that be just going to be like, because this is a power play. This is call
Right.
my bluff, or have like the powers that be, do you really care about Bob Costas and Jake Tapper that they're going to have to
Yeah.
apologize on air? I want to
Right.
see if this actually works, if this bluff actually takes place, because it's
No,
the
no
most
chance.
ridiculous thing.
Wasn't he suing the Golf Channel
Yeah.
and Brandel
Well, and then of
and somebody
course
else
the
too?
judge threw that one right out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this one's gonna follow right into the trash can too, that's for sure. That's
Can't
just
wait.
they're ridiculous there. Oh my God. I was talking to a player, I'm not gonna mention his name. I'm pretty good friends with him. He's a pretty good player, really good player. And he's like, man, if this thing goes belly up like we think this is gonna get belly up, he's like, I hope they just tell all these players fuck off. They're not coming back. Wouldn't that be fantastic? You know, take your status like Dustin, Dustin will have major status or let him play in Augusta the rest of his life, but make them all fucking run through Q school again with all the normal Corn Ferry Tour guys. They knew what they were getting into. They took the quick money. So we'll wait and see what happens. But that would just make some of us so happy. Just so could you imagine Fat Ass Perez back in Q school again? Granted, he could get through because he's good enough to get through. But the whole idea of him on Perez, I've been on tour 28 million fucking years. I made less than $1 million a year. Could you imagine the ego? He with no chance he'd get through because he couldn't believe that he even had to fucking be there. And speaking of Fat Ass Perez, I know something about how much defamation and character lawsuits because I went to an attorney to try and get him off of my back that he was killing my career and devaluing me. And for just a little caddy, you know what
You
he told
actually
me?
had a real case.
Yeah, well, I know I did. I'm like, I did too. And he goes, fact is, it's going to cost you at least $1 million to run him through the ringer. So could you imagine what it was going to cost Patrick Reed and
See,
this,
you know
you
what's funny
know?
about defamation lawsuits? Like,
Yeah,
grow a pair. Just grow a pair.
yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
really want to make money off of somebody for talking shit about you? Good for
yeah,
you. Like
yeah,
that's your
exactly.
moral character right there. That
Yeah,
shows that,
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
you're not the type of person that has the balls to
right,
just, suck
right.
it up. Go on another podcast. Like,
Yeah,
go talk your own shit about somebody. Like
yeah,
go on.
yeah.
Air it
Do
out.
your
Let's
thing.
go.
Yeah,
But
get
that's
it
where the
out.
media is, like, media is protected when it comes to this stuff
Yeah,
from, like, it's so ridiculous to even think
yeah,
about defamation lawsuits in this space and so forth, because God,
yeah,
Patrick Reed just keeps trying to just
yeah, I know.
throw them out there at media companies. Well,
Yeah.
Bobby, that wraps up
Okay,
tonight.
Matt.
I
All right, man. I'm
I'm
gonna get
getting
some
tired.
sleep.
Yeah, I
I'm
feel like we
tired.
both
I
need some
actually
sleep.
yawned 3 times. I hope you didn't see it.
I saw every one of them and I felt terrible for you.
Okay, sorry.
I'm like, I got to stop talking. We got to end this episode.
So we're gonna run down Amex next week, and we're also gonna spend a little time on the Corn Ferry Tour because they
Ooh,
started this week, and it's a Sunday through Wednesday finish. So they have another day to finish tomorrow. And um, I mentioned I'm gonna give a little shout out to a buddy of mine that's tied for 17th that played at North Carolina. Remember I told you that I went and did those Corn Ferry Tour playoffs, and I worked for that kid from North Carolina, Carter Jenkins. And
yeah.
I went on air saying it's the greatest package of golf that I've ever seen in my life since Dustin Johnson with all of his shots and made umpteen birdies and barely got in and he got it done. And I told his agent that. So he shot 3 or 4. I'll give you a little intro. He shot 3 or 4 over the first day at the Bahamas. It wasn't too windy. Then he came back on Monday, and he made 7 birdies, a hole in one. And now he's tied for 17th. And I just want everybody out there to remember, I don't know if you can wager on Corn Ferry Tour, but remember this name, Carter Jenkins. I know I've seen
Carter
this in Carter
Jenkins.
Jenkins from North Carolina. I've seen a lot of talent. I caddy for a lot of talent, and this guy is fucking something special. And let's end it on that.
Done. Bobby,
Okay.
let's have a
Thanks,
week,
Matt.
huh? Let's have a
Yeah, let's
week.
go get him. Let's
Not a
top
day.
20.
Let's have a week.
Yeah, let's have 4 good days, not 3. Love you, bro.
You
Thanks for
too,
listening,
man.
everybody. I'll
Hi.
see you tomorrow.
See you.
I mean, I'll see you next week.
I know what you
Oh
mean.
my God. All right, bro. See you.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com for more